Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Penn Vicarage on this Monday morning. Hope you had a lovely weekend, and thank you, as always, for joining us for our Bible reading for today. And today we're in Psalm 57. It's another Psalm of David in Book 2 of the 5 books of the Psalms, and it says it's from David. It ends the bit of italics at the beginning. It says, "When he fled from Saul in the cave," which reminds me of one of my kind of stories in the Bible, which always makes me chuckle a little bit. The context is David is running away from King Saul. Saul's trying to kill him, and he's running away with his friends, and they take refuge in a cave. And while they're there, I think quite an amusing little incident happens, because you've got David and his friends in the sort of far reaches of the cave, and you've got Saul and his friends outside looking for David. They can't find him. Saul's obviously had too many cups of coffee for breakfast, and so he pops into the cave to, so to speak, relieve himself. And whilst in the cave, David and his friends can see him in the distance. And David's friends pointed out, now's your chance to kill him. You've caught him literally with his pants down. And here's your opportunity to come up behind him and kill him and get yourself free. But David won't do it. David says, I will not kill the Lord's anointed. I will not kill the king. So what he does, he comes up behind Saul while Saul is doing what he's doing. And he gets a knife or a pair of scissors or something and cuts a bit of bottom off his cloak and just cuts a bit off the hem instead. And then Saul goes out, and then David gets a qualm of conscience. You really shouldn't have done that to the king. So he goes out and says to Saul, I could have killed you in there, but I've just got this instead. And then there's a lovely bit of byplay between Saul and David, when Saul basically says, David, you're a much better man than I am, and so on and so on and so on. You can read about it in 1 Samuel 24. Anyway, it always makes me chuckle, that story does. We're going to read you Psalm 57. The context is David and his friends are running away and they've taken refuge in the cave. And whilst in the cave, this is what David feels. Be merciful to me, O God, be merciful to me, for in you my soul takes refuge. In the shadow of your wings will I take refuge until the destroying storms pass by. I cry to God Most High, to God who fulfills his purpose for me. He will send from heaven and save me. He will put to shame those who trample on me. God will send forth his steadfast love and his faithfulness. I lie down amongst lions that greedily devour human prey. Their teeth are spears and arrows, their tongues sharp swords. Be exalted, O God, above the heavens. Let your glory be over all the earth. They set a net for my steps. My soul was bowed down. They dug a pit in my path, but have fallen into it themselves. My heart is steadfast, O God, my heart is steadfast. I will sing and make melody. Awake, my soul, awake, harp and lyre. I will awake the dawn. I will give thanks to you, O Lord, among the peoples. I will sing praises to you among the nations. For your steadfast love is as high as the heavens. Your faithfulness extends to the clouds. Be exalted, O God, above the heavens. Let your glory be over all the earth. And this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Okay, another beautiful psalm. The structure of the psalm, essentially it's in 2 bits, both of which end with the refrain, which goes, Be exalted, O God, above the heavens, let your glory be over all the earth. And you get that in verses 5 and 11. So the psalm is in 2 parts. There's verses 1 to 5, and there's verses 6 to 11, both of which end with a refrain. That's the structure of the psalm. And I want to kind of say really 3 things about the psalm this morning, 3 things which we might find helpful. Firstly, this psalm was written by David, and was written in a particular situation when David and his friends were hiding in the cave and so on. But the great thing about this psalm actually is that applied to David at the time. But the great thing about it is it could apply to us too. Now, it's not often, I'm glad to say, that we have to take refuge for our lives and take refuge in a cave. And I'm glad to say the incident which I described earlier doesn't happen very often either. But we all do have times, don't we, when we feel we want to batten down the hatches. We all do have times sometimes when times get tough. And even though we're not actually often taking refuge in caves, this psalm is beautiful, and it applies to life as well. And one of the great things about the Psalms, and dare I say one of the great things about the Bible, is that it happened at the time, but it's also incredibly relevant to us today. We need to understand the context, understand what's going on, but for all that, actually, the Bible wasn't just relevant to the people at the time. It's actually relevant to us today. And the words which Jesus said, the words which David said, and the situations they're in, and so on, which happened in real situations in real life. But the message can come through, and we can base our lives on it. That the message of the Bible is as true as it's ever been. So psalms like this were obviously written by David at a time when he was taking refuge in the cave. But it also works for us when we're taking refuge too. The psalms like this are beautiful, and we can take them to heart, and that we can apply them to us too. That's the first thing I want to say. Second thing is this. Quite a few of the Psalms at this moment, Psalms in the 50s, in the book 2 of Psalms, are David fleeing away from enemies. But this one in particular is an incredibly hopeful psalm, actually. David is absolute confidence in God. David's confidence that, your steadfast love is as high as the heavens, your faithfulness extends to the clouds. David has absolute confidence in God. But just to point out, really, that this confidence David has is not what you might call stupidity. It's not, everything's going to be fine. This isn't just, brazen optimism. This isn't just, it's all going to be all right on the night or whatever. It's not like that at all. David's in danger of his life here. And yet, even in the midst of this danger, David is confident in God as well. So David has utter confidence in God, and it's a wonderful hymn of praise. But this isn't a silly thing. This isn't blatant optimism. This isn't just looking on the sunny side. This isn't just someone that always sees life as half full rather than half empty or whatever. This is somebody who's in real danger, but despite the fact that he's in real danger, he's absolutely confident that God will save him. So it's confidence in God, but it's not what you call stupidity. It's confidence based on realism as well. And that's how David feels. So here's David, absolute confidence in God. But remember, it isn't just silliness. This is actual real confidence in real situations. It reminds me of a guy called St. Paul in the New Testament, who wrote in the book of Philippians, chapter 4, I think, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in all things, by prayer and supplication, let your requests be made known to God, and the peace of God, which passes all understanding, will guide your hearts and minds in Jesus Christ." And that can easily come across as just, platitudes or something you get in a piece of tract or something like that. But here, Paul wrote that when he was in danger. And if you read the book of Philippians, he's in imminent danger of his life. And yet, even in that situation, Paul is utterly confident, that bring your request to God, and God will give you the peace that passes understanding. So the confidence the Bible has is in God. But it's not what you call a silly confidence. This isn't just blind optimism. This isn't just sort of sunny outlook or, look on the bright side or, we're not going to think about it. It's actually real confidence in real God, even in a difficult situation. But the third thing I want to say really about this is David is absolute confidence in God. And it's confidence not just for himself, but actually David's confidence is that God's goodness, God's power, God's steadfast love, God's faithfulness aren't just for him. They extend to the heavens, and the glory goes over all the earth. So it's not just for him at that particular time, it isn't just for him. But he's saying that God's faithfulness is across the world. That it isn't just for one or two in a holy huddle or whatever it would be. God's faithfulness is God's faithfulness. And therefore it goes to the ends of the earth and, over the heavens and so on and so on. So if your steadfast love is as high as the heavens, and your faithfulness extends to the clouds. It means, God's faithfulness doesn't just apply to David. It doesn't just apply to David's friends or, in a particular situation in the cave at the time. His confidence in God is that God's faithfulness extends to the whole world, to everywhere, the universe, if you like. So God's goodness isn't just for a few. God's greatness is far bigger and far wider and far more universal than ever we give it credit for. So this psalm where David is caught in a cave, taking refuge for his life, three things about it. Firstly, to say that it was written for that particular situation, but it's applicable to everybody now. And the words of the Psalms and the words of the Bible are applicable in our lives today. We can hear these stories, and it applied to David then, but it also applies to us now. We can take the words of the Bible to heart and apply them to our lives today. Second thing to say is that David is absolutely confident that God's going to save him. But this isn't blind confidence. This isn't just silly confidence. This is confidence in God, and confidence even in a situation when he's in danger of his life. But thirdly, David has utter confidence in God, but that God's love is not just for him, not just for a few, but that God's love is as high as the heavens, and his faithfulness goes all the way to the clouds. And God's faithfulness and God's steadfast love are everywhere. For you and for me, and today too. My friends, God bless you.